Welcome in. Today, something is screaming over there. Hi, big guy. Today we're going to do a garden tour. It's July, and we're going to look at the good, bad, and the ugly. I think a lot of people tend to gloss over when things don't work out gardening, and I think or homesteading. I think it's important to show everybody because not everything goes the way you plan. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with Lucky Duck here. He's taking a snooze. I planted tons of tomatillos, and now they are all growing, ready to be planted. So I'm actually going to swap out. Well, I have one chive sitting on top over there. I'm going to ditch the chives and plant tomatillos, and if some of them grow, great. If they don't, I'm just going to keep moving on. And I've got to fill this up, and I'll plant some more oregano because the oregano died. I noticed that I was doing great with all of these aloes, and in fact, if you can see, they're growing all these little suckers, so I'll be able to pluck these off. But I noticed some of the tips were missing. It turns out there's a possum that's been hanging out close by. So thing's been munching on my aloe. Wasn't expecting that. Right, Lucky Duck? Yeah, he's like, whatever. Let's go check on the girlies and the other part of the garden and the yard. Oh, one more thing I wanted to point out is somehow, I need to weed eat this area. I had seeded all this cotton. Aw, looks like something finally saw this tomato plant. It's been sitting here. I've even pulled off tomatoes from the plant. In fact, there's another tomato plant over here. As you can see, it's already putting on like tomatoes. So I wasn't expecting that. It's grown out of the weeds, but that's just fine with me. Like I said, there's a tomato plant here. And then I noticed, well, there were a couple more. This one is one of them. So it looks like something saw that and had a little snack. Not surprised. Okay. Aw, there's the big girls. I'm going to let them out in a little bit and they'll run behind the house. And there's all my littles. Hi, littles. It's so funny looking at that rooster. He's bigger than everyone, yet he's afraid of them. Look, figure that one out. And there's my little Mohawk girl, Joni. She's so sweet. I try and carry her around everywhere I can. Okay, so back to the bed here. I get distracted by them. This I had seeded a few times with zucchini and squash, and some of the cats thought this was a litter box. But I also did add some potting soil to seed things, and they didn't come up. So what I will do, I have chicken wire over this so nobody gets in here and uses it as a bathroom. But I will end up getting a few bags of like good potting soil and putting it on the top this fall. It's kind of too hot to start squash out here, but that's all right. I got the bed filled. It just didn't work out this time. And then over here, and everything looks so janky because I really need to get my big fence roll. The goal is just to get the beds filled. And so this is my sweet peppers. And I seeded some Keystone Giants and they did not come up. And then when they started, I noticed that the heat zapped them. All these other peppers, though, are doing great. Normally by this time, they're a little taller, but I planted late. Now this makes me happy. Look at this. Look at all these zinnias. Very pretty. So, I've got some zinnias. And then all of my little Tabascos are going. Look at that. I got pepperoncinis going here. There are some jalapenos. And then I'm going to have to replant a cayenne. But as you can see, the weeds have crept in. But honestly, the weeds have saved me because the weeds have protected it from a lot of the wildlife and the deer. Of course, look at all these grass spurs I have. Ugh. I'm going to have to get after that. But I still have cucumbers going on. Oh, sorry. That looks terrible. But look at that. Cucumbers. And hi, what are you doing, Wheezy? And this has poblanos in it, but the deer have eaten them back more than I can count. This tub flooded out, but it was supposed to have eggplant. And this was supposed to have eggplant. And this little nightmare on the outside has all this great compost. And it's full of weeds. I had some okra. And I planted lots of okra. And things kept eating it and getting it. And the deer would get after it. So this has just turned into weeds. And it's just what it is. This was corn and they didn't come up. And then the cats again thought this was a litter box. So I had to keep it pretty covered. And then this actually did have black-eyed peas in it, but the deer have been just chomping. I do see like one in there. See one black-eyed pea left, but yeah, I just didn't have a lot of luck with this. And that's just what happens some years. My lemon tree has not fruited, but it has woken up. And this little bush keeps getting mowed back by the deer, but it's pretty resilient. It's a lemon also. So, you know, it's just kind of what it is. I'm not going to get too discouraged because I just took on too many projects this year. Maybe you've done that in your past. Oh, I did that this year. I was trying to make up for last year's lost time. So this year I was trying to get it all done, and I certainly didn't. You know, part of it was I expanded the chicken run and I built a second chicken coop and I got 4 more chickens. And so that was something I felt like was a priority in my life. And I don't plan on getting more chickens next year. This is a pretty Roma tomato. It's just now fruiting. It's been mowed back a little. And this is one of the tomatoes. It's a beefsteak I'm going to do for Country Kirby's challenge. It's just now starting to fruit. As you can see, I'm guarding it with an inch of my life with screening and everything else on it. So it makes it. Okay, let's go check out the blackberry and blueberries. Okay, so this is the blackberry. And look at this thing. It's just doing amazing. It's just huge. It goes all the way from the end all the way to over there. And then I had an elderberry I planted and it did not make it. Just the heat was too much for it. And over here I have a blueberry and it is very stressed. It was really thriving. What I'm debating on is if I'm going to dig it up. If I do, I'm going to bring it back to the porch. And then I'm going to just use this as like a blackberry raspberry bed to do more regenerative gardening. And then what I'll do this next year is in this bed right here, I'll just make this a blueberry bed. It gets a lot more shade from all these giant trees up here. So I need to trim back that bee balm. There's an official name for it, but we call it bee balm out here. And it always opens all its little flowers every time it's about to rain. So that's how like you can tell it's gonna rain out here. And that's a tip from the old timers. Okay, last thing is the tomatoes and the beans. Let's go check those out. All right, I consolidated some things. I've got some pots, buckets, all that good stuff. But over here is my two stock tanks with the tomatoes. The tomatoes are looking kind of sad. It's just getting so hot. But my goal is always to keep them alive so I can get tomatoes again in the fall. And then my apple trees. And I was going to do a video about those, but I got these 2 apple trees on clearance at Walmart for $5 a piece. They're apples. One's a yellow apple and one's a gala. And I plan on planting those in the fall. So I've not had good luck with trees if I plant them in the spring, and my goal is just to keep them healthy and alive so I can get them in the dirt in the fall. But the tomatoes are they're looking a little rough. They're looking sad. The bed's still really wet from just all the rain we've had here. Oh, that tomato fell off. Well, no worries. I'll just take that guy right on inside. And then this is my beans. I've never had this bed flood before. And there is like legit standing water in this. I mean, 5 years, I've never had this dang thing flood. There's so much dirt. And this is like all the bougie, expensive dirt. So I'm a little surprised. But it will dry up. And then I tend to have good luck planting summer squash after the beans start to die. So that's what I'm going to do. And just hope I get a crop of squash. Sometimes, just things don't work out. And you just don't lose sleep over it. You just keep moving. And just trying different things. Like I never dreamed tomatoes would grow by the porch. But there they are. So you just never know how things are going to turn out. And I don't know. Sometimes things get away from you and you end up with a whole bed, or in my case, a yard full of weeds. But this is just realistic. If you're ever thinking about homesteading, if you're ever thinking about gardening and it's like something maybe you're not really into yet, but you want to get into it, you're going to have good and bad years. You're going to be able to, have bumper crops, and then other years, like last year, I got so much okra. I have gallons of it. This year, I have no viable plants. I will get no okra, which is not the end of the world. But it's like, hey, bummer, man. Whereas like last year, I didn't have any of these pretty zinnias, and I didn't grow the same variety of peppers. So, you kind of take the good with the bad, but hopefully this is realistic enough that everybody sees that things aren't perfect. And sometimes on YouTube, people just make it look and seem like, life is just so dandy and there's never any problems. And that's just not realistic. Like some of y'all saw, my chicken had a heat stroke and it was on the 4th of July. I mean, there's no vets just open. So you've got to figure out things, and it's not always a bad thing, but hopefully you guys got something out of this. I will do a little harvest video soon to harvest some of those peppers and some zinnias and some things off the porch, but I did want to do a walk around. And now that it's rained, I'm going to have to mow again, but that's all right. My mower is up and running. But as today, I'm going to let the ladies out. Oops, that's not a good view. I'm going to let them out here and let them run around. But with that, hope y'all have a good weekend, and we'll see you next time. Bye.